Okay. Once again, I'm talking about Trump. Glenn, stop it. No, I'm not going to stop it. You get him out of office, then I'll stop it. The man's a danger. A lot of you out there think that Trump's smart. And then there are a lot of you out there that think Trump's an idiot or he's crazy. Two of those three statements are correct. He is crazy. We all are. But he is a narcissist at the very least. Potentially a psychopath, but I haven't seen proof positive. I mean, I've heard that he's said things like, shoot them and I could shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and nothing will happen to me and blah, 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 blah. But I've seen no physical evidence that he's a psychopath. And even if he is a psychopath, that doesn't mean he's a violent psychopath. He could be a vindictive psychopath, which can be called a malignant narcissist. So there's a line, okay? You can be a malicious narcissist without being a psychopath, but you can't be, you can technically be a psychopath without being a malicious narcissist, but it's pretty unlikely. There's a test called the PCL-R because psychopathy is not part of the diagnostic manual for psychiatry and psychology. There is a test made by, I think, a guy named Harris called the PCL-R, and that's the psychopathy checklist. R is revised. It's still not perfect. It needs some tweaking, but it's a scale, and you have to score a certain number, and I forget if it's 25 or 30 or what it is, but it encompasses several characteristics. So theoretically, you could be missing most of the characteristics in one broad category and still qualify as a psychopath. And I don't believe, if I can recall correctly here, it's been a long time since I looked at the PCL-R, but I don't believe that it evaluates intelligence. Now, intelligence is not related to whether you're going to be a psychopath or whether you are or not. However, intelligence plays a role with all criminals as far as how likely it is that they are to be caught. Arrogance is another thing that causes people to be caught. So the most successful, the most dangerous psychopaths are those who are able to stay under the radar, which is to say they stay hidden from society that they are dangerous. And they operate until the last day of their life. But some of them get tripped up because of their egos. Some of them get tripped up because they don't understand how the police operate. And some of them get tripped up because they get too arrogant. They get a God complex and they become too brazen and they leave themselves open to being caught. Some of them want to be caught. So the psychopath is a wide variety of people. It can encompass superficial charm, glib humor, narcissistic tendencies, an inability to plan for the future, and so on and so forth. And they don't have to have all of them to be a psychopath. They just have to score high enough on the PCL-R. So, in my opinion, there are flaws in the PCL-R that cause people to be misdiagnosed. And hopefully somebody will be able to revise that, make it better. Another problem with the PCLR is, aside from the flaws in what they're evaluating and how they're evaluating it, is this is something that is done between a psychologist or psychiatrist and the patient. So it's voluntary, and it relies on the patient being honest with themselves and honest with the psychologist. If they go in there with the intent of deceiving the psychologist, they will probably succeed, unless they're too stupid to do so. And some people, they are unhappy when they don't get diagnosed as a psychopath. I know a guy in Milwaukee. He was disappointed. And some people are happy to be diagnosed as psychopath because it helps them to understand why they don't behave like other people, why they've had to mask themselves, why they've had to look like everybody else in terms of behavior, by learning, by watching behavior of others to understand, oh, somebody just died, now it's the time for me to what. Oh, okay, everybody's crying, so I should be crying too. That kind of thing. They mimic other people's emotional responses to situations by watching other people. But not every psychopath is able to do that. It does take a certain degree of observational skill and knowledge and intelligence and so on. And again, intelligence is a key role, or not a role, characteristic. I know I've digressed, but I want you to kind of understand a little bit about psychopathy, and you can look up the PCLR yourself. It's not hard to read it. It's not like written for a PhD or even a university student. It's something that is read to the patient, so it has to be understandable by the majority of people. So anyways, Trump is a narcissist. There's absolutely no question about it. He is also very sensitive. He has an inferiority complex, and that stems from the way his father treated him. Or it could be a superiority complex. But either way, you can see hints of it in the way that he fawns over certain leaders and is very complimentary toward them, and the way he dismissively treats other leaders like Zelensky. He also is most likely a megalomaniac or has some other mental disorder that causes him to not understand that you don't have to have all the wealth in the world. You don't have to keep on collecting wealth to the point that you're obscenely rich. But that's a characteristic he shares with everybody who's rich in the world, basically. I mean, like really, really obnoxiously, insensibly rich. Not insensibly, but, it's not sensible from the perspective of everybody else, of course. But so one of the two things that's true is that he is crazy. There can be no doubt about it. Would that stop a court from prosecuting him because he is crazy? I don't think so. I don't think this would be the type of crazy that would qualify him for immunity and being put in an insane asylum. So the other true statement about Trump is he's smart. He's not the smartest man in the room. And when he gets upset, he makes a lot of mistakes. When he feels intimidated or when he feels inferior, he makes mistakes. However, he is very smart. Make no mistake about that. I detest the man. I think he should be in jail, not in the White House. But I cannot deny that he is very, very smart. And I know some people aren't going to want to hear that because a lot of Democrats are ridiculing him as being stupid, as being crazy. No. When Trump does something, he has, as with every president I've seen, or at least every administration or every Congress, however you want to frame it, when a group of people or an individual publicly states something, they almost always have both a stated and an unstated or reasons. So like when America went to Afghanistan to get Osama, that was their stated goal. Their unstated goal was revolving around a gas pipeline or an oil pipeline, maybe both. That was a project that had been stopped because of the presence of the Taliban and because of other factors, political things. And that dates back to, I think, Clinton. And when America went into Iraq, the stated goal was weapons of mass destruction, human rights violations by Saddam, chemical agents or biological agents, and whatnot. And, we got to help those poor Shiite Muslims because the Sunnis were the minority and they were persecuting the Shiites, the majority. The unstated reason was oil, natural resources, and pretty much every nation that America has invaded, as opposed to just like bombing the heck out of, was for the purpose of acquiring natural resources. And if you study history enough, you'll understand. Infrequently, it has been to overthrow a government that is not cooperating with it, but it does do that as well. Sometimes it uses economic means. Sometimes it uses the CIA to perform a coup or an economic disaster so that a new leader who's sympathetic to America, or at least willing to go to bed with America, can be put in as a puppet dictator. And they don't care because they're getting rich, and America doesn't care because they're cooperating with America until sometimes either they're overthrown or they turn on America, which has happened many times. There have been many countries that have been turned into a dictatorship, and then the dictator eventually was like, well, I don't need America anymore. I can't say how many because I don't remember quite honestly. I would say that there are more often than not the dictators are overthrown, and then America either leaves it alone or goes back in and inserts another dictator. So America does not support freedom in the world. I'm not talking about the American citizens. I'm talking about our government, because our government is controlled by the oligarchy, but now the government is a plutocracy, which is even worse in some ways. And better in some ways, maybe, depending on who the plutocrats are. But again, the point of this video is to make it very clear that Trump is very smart. I would not have any doubt in saying that he is a genius. Is he like above genius level? That I can't say for certain, but he is definitely a genius. However, he's also very arrogant. And I see that time and again when I hear clips or when I listen to him speak. The things that come out of his mouth, he admits to crimes that he has committed or will commit. He does it all the time, and then he brushes it off as a joke. And that is compulsive behavior or arrogance, one or the other. If it's arrogance, well, He's just, he thinks he's better than everybody else, and that everybody is stupid. And since everybody is stupid and trusts him, he knows that he can say things and they'll just brush it off as, oh, Trump's just being goofy again. When actually he's telling them the truth and rubbing their faces in it, and they're just too dense to realize that that's what he's doing over and over and over and over and over again. So now the second possibility, and I think this is a lesser possibility because he's inconsistent, is that he's doing this compulsively. So some liars know that they're doing wrong and they feel guilty about it, but they're not going to stop because they have other motivations that are stronger than being honest. So, but the guilt doesn't go away. And so to compensate, they will find a way to slip into conversations, admissions of guilt. One way of doing that is redirection, or blame shifting is another word for it. So blame shifting is probably easier to understand. You take your blame and you shift it to another person or group. And I've seen him do that many times. But on other occasions, he's been very blunt about what he thinks or what he plans to do. But then he passes it off as a joke. And that is not the mark of somebody who is a compulsive liar or a compulsive truth teller within the lies. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but it's less likely to happen than blame shifting, and yet it's still a possibility of compulsion to assuage their guilt. So that second compulsion possibility is indicated by blame shifting, is indicated by saying, like the time that he was out in, I think it was in Texas, and it was really super hot, and he was complaining about the heat, and he said, I don't care about you guys, I just want your votes. And then he said something about, now the news media is going to make a big thing about it, that I said that. And they did, which is warranted. I mean, when you say something stupid like that, the news media is always going to latch onto it. Well, except for Fox, because they're always busy sucking his you-know-what. So right, yeah. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. I'm sure that people are going to disagree with me, but you know what? I've studied psychology. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert, and I've met people who are pathological liars and habitual liars and compulsive liars and con artists as well. I've had good dealings sometimes when I didn't know what they were, and I've also been ripped off and tricked and stuff. So, but I've it's not like when I say good dealings, I don't mean criminal. I don't mean something criminal. I just mean it didn't always end badly for me that I was talking to somebody who was in that category. Because sometimes I headed it off at the pass. And sometimes when they were also a narcissist, I wore out my welcome. Because narcissists don't want to hang out with people who bring more stress than benefit to them. And I can definitely stress people out sometimes. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I'm sure some people are shocked. Some people are angry. Some people don't believe me. But, that's your choice. I mean, I don't care. You believe what you want to believe. Thanks for watching and have a great day.